proposed during this whole thing. So after all,
Are you our engineer, Mary?
I am the engineer.
Okay, so you're
Make
gonna
sure we're getting sound.
make sure all the gizmos are working.
Of course, I don't know how you'd have to get on YouTube. I think that's all right. I already checked that.
Say hello.
Hello.
Okay, well, that's good.
Hello.
You'll have to, maybe at some point, there, go back and check on YouTube after you post everything up
Okay.
and see if you got sound on there. That's the thing I'm concerned about with this. That says we're live right here.
Well,
How close do you need to be to this microphone, Cheese?
You should be fine there.
Okay. Well, I was just wondering, because I usually sit back a little bit.
Yeah, because like I say, we've done several.
Am I good within this range right here, do you think, Mary?
you should be.
Yeah.
I moved it back a little bit because I don't usually sit up on the
Give me a count. Say something.
10, 9, 8.
I can hear you fine.
Okay.
No problem.
All right.
We're all good.
Okay, get that. Now, how do I get?
So how long have you lived here, Cheese?
55 years.
Oh, wow. The hospital was a lot smaller when you moved here, I'm guessing.
Oh, shoot, are you kidding?
I worked up there.
Oh, did you work at the hospital, Mary?
Back in 71, 72, and back then it was really small, and I knew everybody that worked there, and then it just got bigger and bigger and bigger.
It's a huge place. I was telling him I had a friend in 2013 that had an aortic aneurysm. He actually survived it. Wasn't I mean, he was pretty lucky, but he was there at that hospital for well over a month. First in the heart ward, and then later on, they moved him to the regular side of the hospital, and then finally, so I went up there a lot of times, ate in the cafeteria a lot, hung out, watched the trains. Go up there in the waiting area. I would just watch the trains over in the yard. It was like adult train.
Excuse me, Greg. We've got
No, you're
audio
fine.
out here.
Yep, I hear it too.
And we are live on Facebook.
Oh, you're live.
There it is right there.
Somebody's probably texting me to say, you're live.
No, they wouldn't know. I'm going to leave that on there. And we can see ourselves if we need to. And as far as I'm concerned, we go live on Facebook too.
Okay.
Get this thing underway. That'll give us 2 more minutes to talk about history.
Oh, okay. Excellent.
Okay. Mary, you need to make a phone call also. Put us live on Facebook. Put us live there first. And then you can make this phone call. Yeah, second from the
Set
bottom.
up the first.
Is it going?
You're going in.
Okay. Well, good evening, race fans, and welcome to the Works Local Racing Roundup. We are really glad to be here tonight on behalf of Ray Cunningham, the co-host for tonight. I'm sure a lot of you are familiar with Ray, and that kind of a historian. I think if I was going to put you in a category, Ray, I think that's probably what it would be kind of a historian, and particularly about sprint cars.
Yeah, open wheel racing, of course, is a forte of mine, but obviously I've seen my share of late models and modifieds and stuff too, so I feel comfortable talking with those, even motorcycles. But yeah, I've seen a lot of different cars race over the years.
Yeah, absolutely. So Ray's going to bring a lot of expertise to the table, and I've kind of thrown him a little bit of a curve here tonight in that, one, he's usually a guest and not a host, but Ray is going to be filling in, of course, for Greg Clemens, who is still gone to Florida in the sun down there on the beach with his mom. And Ray was gracious enough to accept my invitation this morning to come host. And, of course, the topic tonight is going to be about sponsoring and sponsorship and why people do such a thing and all of the stuff like that, Ray. I mean, I think as we discussed just for a while this morning, racing could not exist without sponsorship. I mean, it's a really big part of it because the expenses that a lot of these racers have nowadays for the cars and everything, it's I think astronomical might overstate it, but it is astonishing what the prices are for some of these race cars and the parts.
Oh yeah, I mean, we discussed earlier today about growing up with racing and what that looked like, and
Yeah.
many cars had zero sponsorship, and if they had any, a lot of times it was just a product decal or something like that, or they were lucky if they had a sponsor that they featured on their hood.
Yeah.
That's why so many cars we talked about a lot of times had the name of the owner and then use the word special after it, because then they would at least be giving a little credit to
Right.
who's paying the bills. But we know that in modern racing, which even at the grassroots level can be extremely expensive, we know that these sponsors are very important.
Absolutely, I agree. I just don't think, especially a lot of the top teams nowadays, could get by without sponsorship. It's just almost impossible for them to do that. And since we're just kind of on this subject, let's just take a minute or two here, Ray, and kind of talk about, I know you've got a list of some of the former sponsors, and Ray and I were, what do you want to call it, comparing
Right.
our two lists, and I think he's got a lot of guys from the 40s and 50s. So, and you talked to, who was it?
Ray Boyle.
Ray Boyles, and he told you about a lot of these. So let's start with yours, go through the 40s, 50s, and then I've got some here from the 70s and 80s.
Yeah, so when we came back from World War II, and of course we know that during the war years there was a ban on racing, so pre that, of course, we know they raced at Olympic places like that with midgets, but after the war, of course, there were still midgets, but then we added the roadsters, and then later, of course, the jalopies and the modifieds and the super modifieds all became prevalent, as well as the midgets and the sprint cars, or big cars.
Right.
And so some of the sponsors of note, Carl's Hollywood Muffler Shop, which sponsored both Junior Hauer and Herschel Wagner. That was Carl Herzog, and Ray Boyle said he even got a chance to work there for a while. Bill Winstead, which that's a name that a lot of people from Kansas City know of because of the burger joints.
Yeah, Winstead's
and
Burgers.
that's the same guy, but he was a racer first. And back in the day, he made burgers that they took to the track, and Ray said he even helped him make burgers. On those occasions. That was before the business. He raced roadsters. He also sponsored them. There was a barbecue joint that a lot of people knew back in the day, Pat's Pig.
Pat's Pig.
That was on Van Brunt.
Yeah.
Bob Slater had that prominently on his car. Of course, Bob was a champion in the KCMARA and the IMCA. So a big-time Kansas City racer. Broadway Motors, Ford dealership on Broadway.
Yes, absolutely.
Another good one.
I remember that, yeah. Yeah.
And then the Bamboo Hut, which was a cool place. 40 Highway sponsored Scotty Scoville. Some of those guys, Sloan's Automotive Service, the Atlas Equipment on Southwest Boulevard. Mac McHenry was one of them that drove a midget sponsored by them. The A&B Auto Salvage. That was out of Riverside. Judd Larson was one of them that drove their super modifieds back in the day.
Yeah.
Of course, then we get into the 60s with like Weld Wheels. When Greg Weld made enough money, he started his own business. Of course, over time, he parlayed that into a much bigger business, but he never forgot sponsoring at the grassroots level races, tracks, things like that. So the Welds were important from that aspect.
Yes. Yeah.
And you brought up one that I liked. I just liked the name. I wasn't familiar with it. It was a little before my time, but the Jockey Club.
Yeah, I think it would be better known as a dive. if you want to go into that, I think it was a dive.
And I think that probably dates back to when Riverside was actually a horse track, right? I'm guessing.
It might have been where the name come from. Yeah, absolutely.
But I'm thinking that's what happened because before it was ever a race facility, I do know they had horse racing on the same plot of land. Of course, the racetrack was smaller, but there was a horse track there, I know, at one point. I'm guessing that's how we got the name Jockey Club.
Yeah, okay, sounds right.
But anyway, that's a guess on that. And then you have a bunch of the more modern sponsors.
Absolutely. And I want to thank my cousin Debbie Bergman for providing me with these. I just thought of a couple, of only 2 or 3, but she cheated a little. She had programs from Riverside and Lakeside. So that's where she picked up a bunch of these, and I'll run through these fairly quick as we're pretty much past our time limit for this already. But anyway, there was Manning Florist, and I don't know how many of you remember, but going to Lakeside, and Al Manning, who drove for Manning Florist, I think it was his dad that owned the business, and I can't remember the name, but he used to pass out a rose, I believe it was, or some flowers at the track every evening that they were there. We mentioned the Jockey Club, Weld Wheels, Phil's Tire Service, and Van Chevrolet goes back into that era. And then one that I thought of out at I-70 that was in my mind was Thoroughbred Ford, and I'm trying to remember the late model driver, and I can't do it right now. Not in my brain, sorry. Craig and Sons Towing, that was Ralph Craig. CarQuest, of course, Riverside Red X was just a huge sponsor, of course, of that track, with it being owned by Ed Young.
Yes.
Ed Young. Jennings Auto Parts, K&L Machine Shop. I just remember these like seeing or hearing the name on the loudspeaker. L&W Crankshaft. I mean, I'm sure they were really into speed and working with racers. Day Automotive, which still exists today. And True Love Auto Parts. I don't know if they're still in business or not, but Gary Truelove, and I don't know if it was the brother, uncle, somebody, but they had that business. And then another one that kind of rings a lot of bells. How about Hager's Liberty Bend Auto Salvage? And then we stepped back a little bit. Most of those was around 85. Stepped back to 76, and it was Walker's Auto Salvage, Buzz's Muffler, and then also Casey Muffler and Auto Repair. And this is one of my favorite just because I love the name, because I think there's something in Indiana that's kind of named after this too. I hear it with USAC is Kokomo Drive-In.
Right.
I think there's some, I don't know if it's Indianapolis.
There's Kokomo Joe's, there's that business, and that, of course, is Sam Johnson's family, the midget racer.
Oh, okay.
And I've heard that's kind of an amusement type place.
Oh, really? Okay.
With games, because I asked somebody what that meant sometimes, because I kept seeing that on his race cars.
Oh, okay. All right. There you go. See? That's why I got Ray here.
And we can't forget your cousin.
Yeah.
And Debbie's dad. That's Speed City Go-Karts was a sponsor for Charlie Kraft and his number 4.
Cheese-colored Ford.
Correct.
Rising Star Enterprises. And that's about all I've got. I might say, if there's anybody out there listening, watching, or whatever, why, if you can think of some from whenever your favorite driver, race car, whatever, raced, why, feel free. We'll have Mary watching on the phone here in a little bit, and you can tell her who that might be. Because, folks, that's what this show's about tonight. It's about sponsors, sponsorship, why they do it, what all it takes, what's involved. And right now, we've got David McMasters on the phone from Seaberg Muffler. How you doing, David?
I'm doing just great. How you doing, Mike?
Doing great, man. I appreciate your patience for letting us.
Oh, I'm enjoying it. I'm listening to all this history. I love history.
Do you have any off the top of your brain that stands out? Because, I mean, you've been around it for a while,
the
too.
Bakers, Jim Baker, he still has a muffler shop over on Leavenworth Road, and he still races, I guess, sometimes. And his whole family, I don't know about financial, but, and that's kind of like with our family. Clyde Ellis just got involved in racing back in the 50s and drugged me into it, and our whole family's just been involved since the late 50s all the way up to today, present time.
Yeah. Do you remember going to the races with Clyde?
Oh, yeah. I wasn't there the day he got hurt in '64 at the fairgrounds in Topeka. It was on Memorial Day, but I remember the phone call that his boss called. I was staying with my great aunts, which happened to live right across the street from us, that owned Annex Auto Sales. There's another name. Before Jim Hager, it was Whistler's Liberty Bend.
Uh-huh.
And they sponsored Bill Crane, Freddie Whistler, and there was another gentleman, Larry Stoudemire. And I always thought that was kind of neat when I was a kid, because it was like a you didn't see that a lot. They all had the same color car.
Yeah.
There were two Fords, and I think Bill drove a Plymouth or something, possibly, but I can vaguely remember that. But and then you're talking about Riverside. Yeah, you're correct about the horse racing. I think Tom Pendergrass spent a few dollars back there. They say in the days when
Okay.
they were racing horses there instead of cars.
Yeah.
And that's just stories. I wasn't around that long ago. But another place in Riverside that used to have a muffler shop was Bill's Muffler, and I think they sponsored Bud Honeycutt a little bit, and maybe some other drivers. But I'm not positive on that. Ray may know more about that than I do, but that shop's no longer there. But yeah, muffler shops seem to go with the racing theme a little bit, And Dad, after he got hurt, after he got his bearings back on, he started officiating, and I can remember before he got hurt in '62, we had this. He had a Ford Galaxy, and he had it all painted up, and they had a big USAC race at Lakeside, and he was just promoting it, and he had no financial gain out of it. He painted the car all up with the date on it, and drove it all around town. And I'm thinking Mr. Mushnick owned it at that time, but it's just just the way he was. He tried to promote racing any way he could. We knew the Whistlers when they built I-70. He had all of his kids out there. We put all those seats in that they just took out.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Freddie was. They had 50 millimeter shells that were cone shaped, and they were welded to a plate. And Freddie Whistler, which just passed away last week, was attaching him to the bottom of those fiberglass seats, and had all of his kids. There was a bunch of us out there. I was probably about 10 or 11 years old at that time, sticking them in the holes that were preformed in the concrete. Yeah, I can remember that like it was yesterday. But
I'll be darned.
that's been a few years ago. That was like in 1969.
Yeah.
Right.
But yeah, we just love racing, and Dad fell into this with the help of Larry Castor at this shop,
Uh-huh.
and we've been very fortunate, and Dad just, and we all, and my mom, she's 87, she still goes to the races, so.
Absolutely. I see her up in the suites when I
Yeah.
get a chance to get out there, come up and visit with you guys, because I love Ray. You've been in there. You know what it's
Yeah.
like. You walk into that suite, and you never know who's going to be sitting in there. I mean,
Right.
from John Backlund
Oh, yeah.
to...
Ed McFarland, another old sprint car, super modified driver, he's
Yeah.
out there about every week, and John, the racing up there sometimes is more hot and heavy than it is on the track.
Yeah.
up there in the suite than what's
Yeah.
going on at the track.
Right.
It's kind of like Fisherman. That thing was way bigger than what it was.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun when all those guys show up, and they're there about every week. But yeah, it's just Dad just always was. Even after he got hurt, he had no grudge about it. He just was a track official. And then the other story about that would be, he had a lot of friends that were in racing, and they would want to sponsor a car, and he just didn't feel comfortable about sponsoring. Plus he had so many friends that were in racing, so instead of sponsoring a certain car or an individual, more swords for the tracks. So which they still get some of the repercussions of that. But, and the promoters, they need all the help they can get. Without them, we don't have any racing. And
Absolutely.
tough hoe. You're only working 30 to 40 nights a year, and if the weather treats you right. So it's just something that we've always kind of went that way, opposed to helping the individual out, opposed to more than one person. Because, like I say, he had so many friends.
How long has Seaberg Muffler under the Ellis family?
Well, it's 47 years this April we've been here.
Wow.
Okay.
Yep, and we've been very fortunate. We've got a good location and a good reputation, and as long as they keep making gas motors, we'll be in good shape. As long as there's petrol in the ground.
It may change, but I think it's going to take a few years to get rid of.
Yeah, I don't think I'll be around to see it, but yeah.
Yeah, I'm with you.
But we just mostly just because we enjoy the sport and enjoy the people. We've like I say, all my heroes are Thurman Lovejoy and Bill Crane, and Freddie Whistler just passed away last week, and Don Connors and all these guys, and Ernie Durr was somebody
yeah.
else.
Durr.
Yeah.
There you go.
Dad was into stock car racing, but he loved any kind of racing, sprint cars, midgets, and he.
Yeah, you
Still
mentioned
do.
that. I can very vividly remember always going to the fair and Ernie Durn, Ramos Stott.
Right, and Ramo's still around.
Yeah, well, I mean, it was one of the highlights of the fair. I mean, I loved riding on the Ferris wheel and some of that other stuff.
Right.
But the real thrill was sitting in them stands,
Listen to those Hemis go by, right?
having that dust in your face,
Right.
and the thunderous roar that you got under that roof.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it
Particular-
echoed pretty good there. And Dad raced IMCA. That's when he got hurt. And Al Sweeney, which he promoted IMCA, and my dad thought the world of him. He let Dad score. Was kind of back in the old days, they'd score with just a piece of paper, put an X on every lap. A little more sophisticated. A little later on, they would have a clock that they'd have to write
The time.
the number down on that little square, opposed to putting an X in it. And many a year I sit out there flipping the lap car, the lap for how many laps in the race, 100 to 300 laps, whatever it was. And they used to flip a card over or a little number, and that's how you kept every lap.
Yeah.
Really?
And I did that for a few years when I was growing up. He gave me that job, but
Yeah.
and Larry Castor would help us do that.
Yeah.
And we traveled to all the fairs. We'd go to Sedalia on a Saturday and then drive to Des Moines on Sunday,
Yep.
and vice versa the next weekend, and occasionally some other tracks up in Iowa when they'd have a longer, at least 100-lap race. That's the only time we would do the scoring, and Dad would help out on that. But, yeah, he just loved the sport, and even after he was disabled, about did him in, but he still loved going to the races and being involved one way or another.
Gee, David, I tell you what, man, you've been a drove of information here tonight. I didn't expect this. I really just kind of thought we were going to talk about sponsorship.
Well, and like I say, and we're fortunate there because when we do sponsor the tracks, you see our name out in front, and there's, we have a lot of response from that, so we appreciate that also. But it's just mostly just to help the sport along and back it as much as we can.
Yeah. That was one of the questions that I have, and I know you don't keep statistics on it. You don't need to because you guys do a good business.
Right.
But do you have any idea how many racing people, show up at your door?
Only when we talk it, so no, we don't keep track of something like that. We're not that organized or into it too much as far as seeing where our dollars go. But yeah, we're well represented, and we get a lot of, and like I say, there's other muffler shop, Buzz and Jim Baker and used to be Bill's up in Riverside, which they're no longer there. But
Yeah.
we're very fortunate, and we appreciate all the business we get.
I guess my final question you pretty much already answered, but I've got to ask it anyway.
Sure.
In the end, what is the takeaway for you, race fans, racers, tracks? I mean, to me, it's just a win-win for everybody, and it's just good for the whole racing community. I mean,
Right, and like I say, it just helps the sport, and I appreciate what you do. I mean, it's a labor of love your time and effort you put into it, and sometimes I don't get to see a race, and I flick it on, and there you are taping it somewhere that I wasn't able to go see, and I really enjoy that.
Well, I'll tell you what, do me a favor and talk to Lakeside about that, will you?
Okay, I saw Pete today, actually. He was by here.
Oh, was he? I'll be
Yep.
darned.
But I will drop a hint in on that.
Okay, I appreciate that. Well, David, it's been a real pleasure, man. And are you still at the shop, by the way?
Yep, I'm sitting here right now getting ready to put an order in for one of our suppliers. So I will get that done, and I'll go down to our warehouse and lock it up.
Okay. Well, anyway, David, thanks for taking some time for sitting down and talking to us. Like I say, man, this is really great, hasn't it been, Ray? I mean, I've enjoyed this.
Well, I appreciate you giving me the opportunity, and you guys have a great evening.
Yeah.
Okay, David, well, you take care, buddy, and thanks a lot.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. There you go, Ray.
Yeah.
I mean, if they all go like that.
We also have Chrome Automotive along with Star Trophy.
Got the Star Trophy.
Star Trophy.
John Helm has contributed those two suggestions.
Excellent.
And once again, folks, if you can think of anybody that, Mary, I need the mouse. I forgot to click up.
Oh.
No hurry.
Just go ahead.
Think of any sponsors from the past that, we might be interested in and knowing, or just give them a shout out. Well, I would appreciate it. And we will proceed on. Ray, if you've got something you want to talk about for a minute, give me a minute and I'll get Chad Clancy on here from Westfall GMC.
Well, John Helm brought up a good one, the Ageless Wonder, about Star Trophy that was owned by Jack Hill. And they were involved in racing for quite a while, and Jack Hill's son, Mike Hill, became a pretty darn good racer, but unfortunately was killed at age 21 driving in a USAC midget race. And for several years, of course, they had the Mike Hill Memorial.
Mm-hmm.
And so, yeah, Star Trophy definitely was a prominent sponsor of racing.
Hey, Chad. It's Mike. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Ray. I'm going to put you on speakerphone. We'll be right with you here in just a minute.
And then another sponsor that I forgot to mention earlier was Melody Motors on Prospect. And I know they sponsored Jerry Well back in the day when he raced in the super modifieds at places like Olympic when he drove the Hank Henry number 93. So yeah, we'd like to hear some more of those sponsors. It definitely brings up some great memories. That was cool. You never know till you talk to people exactly what they know about different things. And
Yeah.
David McMaster was a wealth of information about the IMCA stock car days, which was quite fascinating.
Yeah, absolutely. Just like I said, I did not expect that. I'm sorry. That's one of the things I love about doing this, Ray, is sometimes, man, you get taught the lesson. I mean, not that I think I'm a teacher, but you really learn some interesting stuff. And hopefully we've got another person here that is going to fill us in on what Westfall GMC likes about racing. How are you doing tonight, Chad Clancy?
Doing good. How you guys?
We're having fun
Doing
so
good.
far, and just really enjoying talking to people about, what they do as far as helping racing out, because you've done just about every class out there, I think, at one time or another, and especially when you got into the A-mods, I'm sure, why the expenses started getting a little bit upscale, and boy, sponsorship is really a big deal.
Yeah, it really is. I mean, a lot of people, I don't know, a lot of people are pretty fortunate to do it for a living, but I don't know how they do it. But yeah, every little bit counts, even if it's a $200 sponsor or $500 or what. It all helps.
Yeah. There again, you work at Westfall, so that's more or less why you're representing them. So you're going to speak for them. And I guess my first question to you is, does Westfall GMC have any kind of a major plan or whatever when it comes to sponsorship in racing? We know that they are a dealer of crate engines, so I presume that has to be in their plan. But and this has to be a good opportunity for them to be able to sell crate motors. But is there something above that, that they think about this? Because let's face it, we're talking about race cars and automobiles in general, and I think when you do that, why, in my mind anyway, men kind of come to the front as far as buying a car, taking care of a car, servicing a car. Does Westfall, is this at all in their plan, and when they try to do sponsorship in racing, is that in the back of their mind that these are the guys they're after?
Yeah, I mean, really, the motorsports marketing area, it's pretty much all of our customer base. I mean, I've got a lot of my customers and our customers are race fans. They come to the races. A lot of them race. I mean, there's a lot of people that I deal with on a daily basis with business I know through racing as well. I mean, like Bobby Lane and Lane Machine Works, we do business daily together. Just a whole lot of people, and the whole motorsports deal's a pretty big group of people that are generally a bunch of hard-working people. So if you come to my shop, I've got a lot of racing people that work for me. So just because I know their work ethics, and I know, not because I'm all friends with all of them, it's just I know that racers usually have good work ethics. So
supports us, and we have a pace vehicle at the racetrack, and hopefully people see that, and then they'll see that we sponsor the racetrack and come by parts, service, vehicles, whatever else. The crate engine deal, it's more of a convenience to have them in stock for racers, because honestly, we actually lose money on the motors. There's just no, to be competitive with Speedway and those other guys, there's no money to be made on them, but it's just, we have them available right here in Kansas City with someone not having to drive somewhere else or wait to get one if someone needed one on a Saturday or something.
Right. I wanted to ask you, what department do you work in, Chad? Are you in service, or what parts, or what are you working in out there?
Yeah, I'm in service.
You are. So what, do you run the shop, or?
Yeah, I'm over 2 locations here in Kansas City.
Holy smokes.
The service manager.
Yeah. Do you do Excelsior also?
No, we sold that. We're strictly heavy duty. I'm in the Volvo Mac, the Class 8 trucks, over that service department, and then we have a GMC and a Isuzu shop, and then we have leasing vehicles. We've got a little over 800 employees and got locations all over the United States, so
Yeah.
it's a lot bigger company than a lot of people realize. So.
Yeah. Well, I was going to say, most of the stuff I got off of I think it was Facebook page today I was on, it all showed like SUVs and stuff like that. I thought you were into heavy trucks. I thought that's what GMC's main thrust
Yeah, the
was.
Westfall GMC is more the GMC pickup stuff. They make us keep that kind of separated, obviously, with GMC's branding rules, but Westfall Odell Truck Sales is what, our name for the heavy-duty side, so, but it's all the same. And Kansas City Freightliner, same company, same owners own all that, so.
Okay. All right, here's a loaded question for you, okay? And you do not have to answer. Okay. I wanted to ask you, do you guys have a budget, and could you give us a bird's eye view of sort of what Westfall might spend in 1 year, let's say, on racing? And I know I'm putting you on the spot there, but if you could give us a ballpark figure guess.
Yeah, it's not as much as some people think. It's really nothing near amount what we spend on, or what any company spends on a billboard. You can spend $3,000 a month on a billboard and hope that somebody sees it, where you can spend a lot less than that on the side of a race car and get a year's worth of advertising and sponsoring announcers. Like Rick Staley does an awesome job of promoting us every week. But honestly, probably with all the different events and stuff we do and customer events over the year, it's less than $10,000. So it's not as much as one would think.
Okay, well, I appreciate that, Chad, for being candid with us. That's good of you to do that. But I think I'm going to be repetitive here, but I wanted to ask you, let me go back here. You have a direct connection in that you handle a lot of this, and I wanted to know what insight do you get from being involved in racing as to the way that you're helping Westfall spend this money? Do you have a criteria as far as tracks or anything that you're going to sponsor? What kind of, I guess, settles it in your mind as to where that money may go?
No, it's just one of them deals where, I know John Bowler has always supported me, or has for the last several years, and you become friends with somebody, and then, so I'm a pretty loyal person, and so is my company, so, he supported me, so we supported them, and that kind of deal. It's really nothing. We haven't really talked to any other tracks, or even just, that's where I race is the main reason. So,
right.
Obviously, my company just is mainly supporting, something that I'm affiliated with is more in support to myself,
Right. And then I guess just more or less a comment, but you can comment it on it also if you'd like. But it seems like that almost every racer has a truck for a tow vehicle,
Right.
which is definitely related to GMC. And racing really is pretty much a male-dominated sport. I presume that this also kind of plays into what Westfall GMC is targeting, I would say, for a customer.
Right. Yeah, it's definitely is. I mean, a lot of the racers, you know, own businesses, and you know, they all have work trucks, and yeah, like I said, it goes a long ways. I mean, we've sold a few vehicles just from the pace truck, and yeah, I get calls all the time of people wanting to either, you know, just buy vehicles for their wife or for themselves or whatever. That
Yeah.
I'm not in sales, but I should be, honestly. With as many people as I know through racing, because I think I could sell quite a few vehicles, but I just pass them along, so it works out really good.
I was going to say that would be good because there's usually a commission that goes along with that, I think.
Right.
And
Yeah.
you're more or less handing that over to somebody else. But
Yeah, I'm too honest to be in sales, I think.
whoops, we've striped that comment. Yeah, striped that comment. But anyway, oh man, let me take a deep breath on that. Well, all I can say,
Picking on the salesman, I'm the service guy, so I just,
yeah, all
we
I
all
can
joke
say,
with each other.
Chad, is that I don't think that Westfall could pick a better person to have chosen to be able to hand out this money, or however you want to put it, spend it, and do it in a meaningful way for the sport. Because like you say, man, you've been at it a long time. What was it I was telling? Well, I think it was Ray today. He was talking about Chad Clancy. Let's see, I know that name. And I said, well, yeah, I think he started in street stocks, and I think you were Grand National Champion at Lakeside. Is that correct?
Yeah, I raced go-karts since 95, and then really started racing full-time in 1998, and then haven't missed a season since then. And so, yeah, it's been, like, this will be my 23rd year racing, so it's definitely a long time.
Well, like I say, Westfall couldn't pick a better person to do it because you definitely got a working knowledge, one, of the sport. And to me, one of the things about it is when you start talking about that kind of money, you're definitely wanting to deal with people that are honest and, you know, will treat you right and, like you say, pat each other on the back and all things like that, because that's a lot of money to be putting out there.
Yeah, I appreciate the kind words there, but yeah, it's a great family-owned business, and like I said, the owners that I work for are right there at our location every day, and so I talk directly to them daily, and like I said, I've worked there ever since high school, so it's been a great company to work for.
Oh, wow. Good retirement, I hope?
Yeah. You gotta have that. So.
You're a little ways away, but it's something to think about, man, because, you know, we don't know about Social Security and all that other stuff. But anyway, Chad, man, I appreciate you taking some time out and talking to us. It's been a pleasure and insightful, and I appreciate you answering my tough question, too.
Yeah, I appreciate the time and the offer to have us on, and like I said, if anybody needs parts, service, sales, my Zuzus, anything business-related, vans. I mean, Rick Beebe used to buy a lot of vans from us, and there's a lot of racers that we do business with. So if you're ever looking for anything, just let me know. You can get hold of me directly.
Yeah, just go into Westfall. You might get an autograph while the racer's in there. Okay, call you out of the shop if nothing else.
Yeah, that's right.
All right. Thank you a lot, Chad, man. I appreciate it.
All right, thank you.
Have a good evening, buddy.
You too.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Why don't you read these other, I wanted you to write those there, but that's okay. I'm going to make our next call.
I can
Oh,
call
okay.
if you wanna.
Oh, I can do it.
There's some of the other,
Oh, here's some more that you can read there that
Some
people
Oh, all right.
have called in.
We've just been
Where does the list?
Excellent. Oh,
That's not it. Oh, he's got it. Yeah, here we go.
C&H Auto Salvage, North Hills Auto Mart, A&B Car Star, Good Times Body Shop, Frank's Used Cars, Arrow Speed Shop, Bill and Larry's Auto Repair, Bill Woods Ford, Roy's Automotive, and the Suman Automotive as well.
It's me, Justin. We're going to put you on speaker. Buddy will be with you here in just a second. Okay.
And while we, oh, yes, here's your,
Thank you.
you're going to need that. I also wanted to plug a new and exciting series I've been working with. We talked about John Helm earlier, and of course, Helm Racing has a sprint car that they run with one of our best young drivers in the area, Wesley Smith.
Well, I mean,
And they race and finished third place last year in the first year of the MWRA. That's the Midwest Wingless Racing Association, who will race this year for the second time, and at many of the tracks that, of course, we feature here on your show, tracks like I-35, US 36, Bethany, Lakeside, CMS, Valley, will all have races with MWRA. But what Raul Romero pointed out to me earlier today is they are still looking for active sponsorship for the series to make it all the better for the points fund and for the racers.
yeah, absolutely.
Because as Chad Clancy pointed out, I believe, $200 here, $500 there, whatever it happens to be that you can provide if you have the opportunity to do so, will help out a series, will help out drivers, owners.
Yes, absolutely.
And of course it's in this case it is like a big circle. It all comes together in the end. So if we want to have competitive racing, we have to help out at the track level, but then obviously you have to help out with the cars themselves to be able to race. So it's,
Yeah, I understand. I know what you're talking about there. Again, it's a pat me on the back, I'll pat you on the back kind of thing. I mean, that's kind of simplifying a lot, but I think that's what it is. But anyway, we now have from Design Source Flooring, we've got Justin Lawson. And Justin, how you doing tonight?
I'm doing great. I'm doing what I do every Thursday night, Mike. I'm hanging out in the garage watching the Works Local Racing Roundup.
Well, thank you, Justin. I appreciate that, man.
Yeah.
We have a fun time doing it. I just hope everybody has a fun time enjoying it. But, to kind of start off, we all know that your dad was a sprint car racer, and I know that kind of puts you in a slot, but let's put that aside for a minute. And I want to know, how do you make a connection between flooring products and people who put their foot to the floor?
Right. I like the way you phrase that, Mike. That's pretty good.
Well, I got another one later on, so get your pen and pencil.
Let's take some notes.
Okay, you're going to want this one I've got later on. But anyway,
All right.
honestly...
let me just say... it's good to see Ray on there. It's good to see you, Ray. I commented already on the show that every time I hear Ray or talk to Ray, I learn something new about local racing. So that was a good choice in the co-host tonight. So I appreciate you having me on the show tonight and giving Design Source the opportunity to come on and talk about why we sponsor in racing. So at first glance, I know what you're saying, Mike. A flooring company and racing might not seem like it goes hand in hand, but if you scratch the surface a little bit, bear with me here. There's more to the picture here. So first of all, I divide the reasoning behind Design Source involvement in marketing and racing into two categories. One is the practical reasons, and one is the intangibles. Now, if you were to talk to my dad, Dan Lawson, about why we're doing it, he would give you the practical side because he's too humble to mention the intangibles, which I'll get into here in just a second. But,
Okay.
on a practical level, first of all, you have to understand Design Source Flooring isn't a retail flooring shop. We are what you call multifamily. We specialize in larger complexes like apartments, new construction, commercial is a big part of what we do, and and military base housing. And so that being said, on the commercial aspect of it, one of the practical reasons we do it is we've done flooring measurements for the suites in I-70 Motorsports Park. With obviously their upcoming season here, we've done flooring bids or lakeside. We've measured Mike and Kyle Johnson's house. We've measured the bathrooms up there at I-35 Speedway. So there's that aspect of it. Being involved, there's a lot of commercial benefits of it. And then now also real estate. Now with racing and track and developers, things of that nature, there's real estate moguls such as Chris Payne. There's a venture that my dad and Chris might be working on actually. So there's that aspect of it. And then my dad's main thing that he likes to say, if you ask him, what's the benefit of sponsoring and racing, he likes to say that the maintenance guys for these apartment complexes and multifamily complexes are, some of them are race fans, and some of those guys kind of determine who you're going to use for your flooring provider, So there's that aspect of it. So that's the boring part. To me, is the practical stuff. I like the intangibles. And a lot of those go back to the core values of Design Source, which is things like giving back. Really, racing isn't the only thing that we're involved in sponsoring in. We sponsor Alex's Lemonade Stand events, which is Alex's Lemonade Stand Foundation for Childhood Cancer, helps families of that nature with charities, things of that nature that we do. Sponsor barbecue teams, some of the employees' kids' baseball teams, stuff like that. But obviously racing is largely revolved around money, is probably our biggest, budgeted item as far as sponsorship goes. So, getting back,
sounds like a lot of stuff in the community.
Go ahead.
I say it just sounds like a lot of stuff in the community.
A lot of what? Excuse me.
A lot of stuff in the community that you guys are involved in, like you say, with the sports teams and youth stuff and cancer issues like that. Yeah. Okay, go ahead. I'm sorry.
And a lot of, and really, advertisement really, when it comes down to it, and marketing is brand recognition. You see the Coke wave, you don't even have to read any letters, it's Coke. Or somebody wants like a slushy type drink, you ask them what flavor icy do you want, they might want, a Coke flavor. Well, it's really a cola flavor, and icy is a brand in itself. What you're really asking for is a slushy, so it's just getting in people's heads, being in front of them, having your banner out there, being on social media, a lot of it, not to get too deep into it, but some of it is subliminal, where you see a company logo, a company name in front of you so often, and then, a maintenance guy sitting there with two bids in front of him, and one of them was Design Source, and he's heard of them before, we're going to go with them.
Right.
So,
seen the name.
But, right, yeah. So, the intangible part, I think a lot of it is giving back, things like that. Building strong relationships, that's another one of the core values. The racing community is a very tight-knit community, and I don't even know where to begin with that. There's so many relationships that's like a big circle, like you guys were just talking about, that always, it's such a small world, the racing community. So, and obviously the Lawsons have history in racing, and so being involved in the racing community, obviously
we realize the blood, sweat, and tears and the passion that goes into it, you know. So had we come from, you know, like basket weaving, we'd probably understand the blood, sweat, and tears that goes into that, sponsoring that. But if you happen to know, you know, dirt track racing, so.
I think Ray's got a question for you too, Justin.
Yeah, sure, go ahead.
Well, we wanted to talk, so you were bringing up, obviously, the more practical side and stuff like that, but of course also you guys are into racing as a company, as a family. So what are you thinking about the relationship with Xavier Doney and his sister and that family, and how that coincides with your business, and how do you feel about that?
Yeah, and one other thing about that is what is this one of those things, Justin, that's going to be a long-term return kind of item, because both of them are really so young. And
Correct.
What's Xavier's sister's name? Natalie.
Natalie.
I couldn't think of that, but they just seem so young. And with you guys sponsoring them in the micros, and like I say, this could be a long road, you know, to be on. But what is the return for Design Source Flooring on a deal like that?
You know, one of the first drivers that Dad really went into sponsoring pretty big time when he went into, you know, racing with the ASCS was Chris Parkinson. And at the time, that wasn't Design Source Flooring, that was Flooring Systems. And Design Source has really gone through three evolutions. It started as environmental recycling services, where we recycled old flooring, and then Flooring Systems, where we installed retail for Home Depot, and now what we're doing now for military base and things of that nature. But to get to you guys' question, I really think that Dad likes to invest in the youth of the sport, that he has a real passion for that. And he realizes that, I mean, obviously, you know, it's almost become a cliche at this point because it's so obvious that the youth is the future of the sport. And we have to get the youth involved, and you have to promote the youth. And, you know, Dad's honestly taking a little flack for giving the kids a platform that he has, or the opportunity at the age that they are, you know, because not everybody agrees that, you know, a 14-year-old should be in a full-size sprint car, where Xavier's 15, you know, now, so, and then he'll be 16 up this upcoming season, but I think that it's Dad giving back. I think it's his passion for the youth of the sport. And, yeah, it's a long-term investment, whether he's involved with it till the end or not. You know, I think that he would take great pride in starting something and being part of the foundation of being able to provide a platform for a driver of the talent of Xavier and Natalie. So I think really it comes down to just having a passion for the sport. I mean, you know, it's hard to put a number on the numbers, you know, like Dave was saying. You know, keeping track of who comes in because they're a race fan. It'd be great if you could print out a report and know that. But, you know, advertising kind of comes down to, it is a long-term play. It's having your company name in front of people. That's, you know, and racing's what we know. Racing's family. The drivers we sponsor, we pick because they represent the core values of the company, of integrity, you know, represent themselves well, good sportsmen. You know, when you're sponsoring a driver, they represent your company to a lot of people, because that's the only thing that they know of your company is that driver drives for Design Source Flooring, and that kid just gave that interview. You know, not to put any pressure on the kids if they're watching this, but that just goes for any driver. That's the nature of the beast. You know, so we're very careful in the tracks that we sponsor. We sponsor for different reasons. You know, it's not. It's kind of subjective. You know, we sponsor Valley for, you know, our respect for what Dennis has done out there in supporting local open wheel racing. We sponsor I-35 because it's
Absolutely. I'm afraid we're running out of time, Justin, but you need to get your pencil and paper ready, okay?
All right.
Because I always thought that most companies, they usually have a mission statement. And I was going to ask you what yours might be about sponsoring racing, but here's what I came up with. So like I say, here we go. You ready? When you put your foot to the floor, we want it to be on a design source floor.
I love it.
But
Yes.
or would you have one that you could lay on us real quick as far as what the mission statement might be for design source flooring when it comes to being involved in racing?
Well, for our mission statement in general is to provide value-conscious products for families to be able to enjoy their homes.
There you go.
As far as within racing, that's a very clever one, Mike. I don't know. That's going to be hard to beat. That's tough as far as the motto. But
Okay.
I'd say as far as the heart and spirit behind what Design Source is doing within racing, I would say supporting the family aspect of racing while lifting up the youth of the sport.
Sounds good to me, Justin. I love it, man. I think you nailed it right there. But anyway, Justin, I'm afraid we got to cut you off, buddy. I appreciate you taking some time and spending it here with us on the local racing roundup. It's always a pleasure to have you on and hear your ideas and comments. And thanks a lot, man. I appreciate it.
All right, thanks for having me on, Mike. Good seeing you, Ray. Good talking to you guys, and I'll be watching the rest of the show. Have a great show.
Okay, thank you.
Excellent. Thanks, Justin.
Bye-bye. Say hi to Nicole.
Bye-bye. Will do.
Okay,
Bye-bye.
bye-bye. That's always how I close with him.
Right. Say hi to Nicole.
Because she's such a sweet little
She's a
gal.
very nice lady.
Yeah, and do we have any more names
Yes, we do.
for sponsors?
In fact,
You want to hand him your phone?
Yeah.
So they can hear who they are.
Sure.
And while we're doing that, I'll call our next guest, Mr. Joslin.
Let's see.
Call in some more sponsors, folks. That's what we're here for, is to
Thank
give
you.
these people some credit for what
Yeah,
they do.
kinda. It starts
Scroll
up there
there.
and scroll down a little bit.
Okay.
Yeah.
We got a scroll? Man, that's a bunch of them.
Yeah.
Ed Houston has been really filling my phone up.
Is he going overtime on it?
Baker's Sunset, Fina, and Toe. I remember
Oh, come on, it can't be busy.
in my neck of the woods growing up, the Fina station, one of my dad's friends
Oh, really?
had race cars and had a Fina station. East Side Auto Parts. Let's see. Ed Houston provided many of these. Fred's Automotive.
Yes,
Also.
yes, out in Independence. It's a
Another
speed shop,
good
I
one,
think,
yeah.
isn't it?
And so
Oh, come on, this can't be.
we're trying to get a hold of Gary Joslin
Yes,
right
we are.
now and talk to him.
You want to message him, Mary? No, on your,
On my phone? Yes.
send him a text message. We're trying to call him.
I will do that.
So anyway, we've been continuing on our conversation with some of the racing sponsors here in the greater Kansas City metro area.
Are you done with that?
Yes, we'll give you back that.
There you go.
Thank you.
Thanks,
And,
Ed. Appreciate you calling them or texting those in for us, buddy.
That's great. He gave
Absolutely.
us a lot of good names there.
Yeah.
Some of the businesses, and it's interesting. Even in the earlier stages, Dave McMaster went back to the building of I-70 and what took place there. And I think I told you earlier that it was Herschel Wagner that did the crane work.
Yes,
That actually dug the dirt. So it's funny, from the starting point of a racetrack that might just be a pasture to the finished product and then the racing, how many different goods and services might take place during that time, and how those may also come back into play in the racing itself, because a lot of those people that are doing those tasks are also involved in racing, just like the people we've talked to tonight, Chad Clancy, the Lawsons, David McMaster. And so it's interesting how the inner workings of that most of these people that are sponsoring racing also have very much a passion for racing as well, and it means something to their core.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's just not a business.
It's ringing.
So we may have him. The chats, it's been great tonight to go over some of the older businesses and then
Gary,
talk to people.
this is Mike. We're going to put you on speakerphone, and we'll be right with you. All right, we made the connection. We're a little bit, about 10 minutes late, but we got time, right? We got time.
Right.
Folks, on the phone, we have got Gary Joslin. And Ray, I'm going to, throughout this program, refer to him as the racing jeweler. I'll get it.
Racing jeweler?
The
Okay.
racing jeweler.
All right, I like that.
Man, expression through gifts and jewelry, Gary, this doesn't seem to mix the same as with racing. I mean, it's more, I think, a thing about people connecting and expression of feelings as far as jewelry. But this must go back in time with you to where you've made this connection with racing. How did that all start?
Well, the owner of I-70 came to me one day at Brad McDonald back in the day, and he talked about passion, and that's what you feel when you get around these race car guys. It's passion. You know, they're passionate to get back out there and compete. And I've been very passionate about my business because we're in the business of love, and love's about passion. And, you know, when you have groups of people that passionate about what they do, it's sure fun to watch because they live it. They live, eat, and sleep it. And that's kind of the way life is. You got to take it on the chin at times, but you got to pick your head up and keep going.
Boy, absolutely. And, of course, I think talking about that a lot of times in my life, I've learned the most by making mistakes. And overcoming those mistakes and then pressing on.
Well, stubbing your nose is part of the deal. I mean, you're gonna try too hard in true honesty, but sometimes it's just the wrong direction that time. You don't know till you get there.
Yeah. And where did your interest in racing come from, Gary?
I grew up with a sixth grade math teacher, and I didn't have a penny. And when I turned 16, Mom gave me her 70 Chevelle. And that's all it took, man. I've been hooked on cars ever since. But, you know, being a school teacher and a young poor guy as I grew up, I didn't have any money to put in cars, so I was always an avid fan. I mean, I lived, eat, sleep, Dale Sr.
Yeah.
You know, Dale Earnhardt was just the king, not to be confused with the other king, so to speak.
Yeah.
But, you know, you get around people, and that's what I like. I like the passion that they have. You know, we're so passionate we can't see dollar signs anymore, and that's the hard part. This stuff has gotten crazy expensive.
Uh-huh. Yeah. Kind of along those lines, kind of. You know, I think most jewelry is purchased by men. Is that kind of one of the aspects that you started to think about racing? Because racing pretty much is a male-dominated sport, and not only participants, drivers, crew guys, but also fans. I mean, I think we are starting to see more families there, but was part of your thinking in justifying this sponsorship that men do most of the shopping for jewelry? Is that true?
Well, it is generally, but when you got a car that's got a broken the front A-arm, I'll tell you what, that jewelry's got to wait a little water.
Yeah.
You know, it's about the group. It's about being friends of the friends, and I've given a lot of watches away over the years. One of the Amon guys came up not long ago, and I've been trying to win a watch of yours for years. I finally won one. And I said, well, where is it? He said, that's the nice thing I ever won. It's in the trophy case with all my trophies.
I'll be darned. Yeah. Also, when I talked to you, was it yesterday, I think, you were also telling me that you were a shop teacher at one time?
Yeah, I got a degree down in Emporia in shop teaching. I could teach 8 subjects, and you know, my dad is a 6th grade math teacher, and while I learned a lot and I wanted to learn to teach, the passion of shop teaching I was ahead of the curve, so to speak, and ended up in the jewelry business. And, you know, I'm a people person, always have been, because I've never met very many people that I'd call a stranger because we're all equal.
come from. And, when I sponsor guys at the racetracks, I'm doing it because I like the guys. They made me part of their group. And I'm not throwing thousands of dollars at this. The guys I'm sponsoring right now is Dalton Kirk. He's from out south in Gardner Way. And I pay his group in for the whole season.
Uh-huh.
If they go out there every night and there's 2 or 3 of them, then by the end of the year I'll put a couple $3,000 into it. But that assures that young man he gets to race this weekend. Now, after that, I don't buy car parts, I don't replace motors and all that kind of stuff. That's on you. But just the chance to get in, let's go play, and just encourage them to go. It's not a lot, but that little bit makes a lot of difference a lot of times.
Well, absolutely. You figure $35 a night for a 24 race season.
Right.
That's going to add up quite a bit, especially 3 times that. You're talking like $100 a night. That's $2,400 there.
Yeah, in the grand scheme of things, racing in my heart and in my own personal world, it's really exciting. It's one of the fairest things, most fun things you can do. It's legal to do, and yet gives you the thrill of being out there and just gassing the dickens out of your car, just wildly out of control, but not crashing anybody.
Yeah. Well, and it makes the streets a little safer for the rest of us because they're out there doing it on a track instead of down here on Armour Road.
Yeah, no doubt about it. The people, again, back to the sponsoring part, it's been a lot of fun. And I've met more nice people, a lot of fire people, and all kinds of people in society. It's a mixed group. It's a great group to be around. Everybody's happy to be there. And just go have fun and just, I don't want to use the word tear it up, but go out there and go as hard as you can. And the thrill, the adrenaline rush, I can still feel it when I feel the guys out there going around. It looks easy. You are busier than a one-armed paper hanger if you're in that cab. Unbelievable. But it's a passion that I enjoy, and you feel it. You guys been at it a long time. The reason we hang at it is because we like doing it.
Yeah, absolutely. Do you have any favorite memories that just stands out in your mind, Gary, of races or tracks that you've been associated or events that happened that you were associated with that stand out in your mind? I know you were connected with I-70. They're pretty strong for a while. And
I was totally out of control when I was at I-70. More than anything, it's the ongoing happiness that giving the watches away for Mother's Day, and giving watches away to the crowd for Father's Day over the last 15 years on a regular basis at 3 tracks. I haven't met many strangers that don't know me because it's a heart thing. We give to the community. I don't ask anything in return. I just want you to give me a pat on the back and say thanks. That's all you ask, isn't it?
Well, you sound like me, man. Of course, I do this mostly with no sponsorship. It's all pretty much out of pocket. Nobody helps me out. And the best thing you can do to me is come up and say, Mike, I really enjoy what you do. That's like $1,000, Gary.
Yeah, it's even better than that because that's what makes your heart fills you up and it keeps you going. And that's the hard part. Just keep on going. And it's been tough last few years. Not only we're so cooped up we could scream at each other, but we didn't get our adrenaline rush this last year like we normally do, and we didn't get the regularity of friendship and pat people on the back and giving hugs out. And I hope that changes this year because that was so much of it. Is the kindness that the wives show to the guys.
Uh-huh.
It's really cool.
Absolutely. Racing really is such a great family. I'm just really glad that I'm a part of it. But do you have a favorite track that you like to go to?
Daytona's on my bucket list. My favorite instant is I passed Carl Edwards at I-70 on the very first lap I raced with him. The first time he came back and raced I-70. Well, the track champion and Carl had tangled up going to the back set, and I closed my eyes and drove through the smoke and ended up third. Well, as shortly thereafter, I was lapped twice by him, and but just the fact that we're racing with that kind of a guy, and he's just a regular guy.
Yeah, and for somebody like that to go on and be involved in NASCAR, I mean, it's almost like Clint Boyer, same thing. Of course, now we get to hear him on TV, but I think you were telling me in our conversation the other day also that at one time I think it was when I-70 closed, you owned 4 asphalt trucks?
I ended up with 6 when it was all said and done.
6?
When I started, it was the first time they introduced the crate motor. We had Ford crate motors, Chevrolet crate motor. Hell, for $3,500, put a crate motor in your car, put out 400 horse. You compete with those fancy motors those guys are spending 15, 20 grand for.
Wow.
Now, it's not one you can just grab it out the limit as it'll blow up. We blew a couple of them up, tried that. That was fun. But when you get in for 35, and I paid $3 grand for a chassis, it's kind of like what we're doing now. I've taken all those cars, those race trucks. I've got a 55 Chevy, a 41 Ford Coupe. I've got a 42 Deluxe coming off. They got a 69 Mustang coming off. We're all taking all those trucks and converting them into vintage cars. And I'm with the Missouri Vintage Association. We are absolutely having a ball.
Boy, it sounds like it. And I think I ran into you down at Old 71 Speedway. I think an old buddy of yours was racing down there. I think you were telling me with the old timers.
You know what? It's a gas now. We're racing for $45. First base and last place pays $45. They give you tow money down there. So if you almost hit me but don't, I'll give you $10 after the race is over because I'm not racing. I'm just showing my stuff off. Yeah, now you're racing for $55. Just don't hit me, right?
Yeah.
Makes sense to me.
I've noticed they kind of leave quite a bit of space in between each other.
Yeah, well, you haven't been the order of driving the guys I've been driving with. Isn't there many people out there? But, when you get off and it's all said and done, you pat each other on the back and you congratulate each other, and you can't wait to get back the next week or wherever. In the vintage group, we're going to, I think, 6 or 8 tracks this year, including Valley and Central Missouri, and trying to get a welcome over to Lakeside. But, it's been a lot of fun, and you got to see all these guys out there at these old cars. We are having a gas. And, I mean, sprint car tires all the way around. We are so stuck to the ground. How fast do you want to go?
I've seen that bunch, and it's enjoyable to actually walk through the pits, and there's no covers over the back of the cars, so you can't see their suspension. There's no hiding it or having them up on lifts. I mean, they're old-time cars, they're old-time racers, and, they're just, a lot of times in the pits, just talking about old times.
Yeah.
It's exactly right. The thing is, it's what we can do for this amount of money. It's not cost you 15, 20 grand. You get a roller for being just a chassis for around 3 to 5 grand, and then put a motor in. You're out there having fun. It's probably, if you want 12 times the fun this year, that's what we're going to have on a weekend. So we went down to Butler and go down to Ozarks. Went down to what's the real fancy one down Lucas Oil. Man, that was a lot of track. I was the fastest guy in the straightaway. My power steering went out.
Imagine that kind of caught up with you in the corners then.
Yeah, I had Popeye arms when I left.
Also, I think you mentioned that you've got a couple of show cars you did pretty good at the World of Wheels with.
Yeah, I hooked up with Mickey Fleetheart. Kind of runs this vintage group, and one of his good competitors and the tech director is Dan Schmidt. And he's the one that first came to me because I bought one of his trucks when I-70 closed. He said he wanted it back. I said, I'm keeping the motor. And he said, that's okay. And that was the 41 Ford. He won last year. And, it's just guys having fun. I mean, I don't have thousands and thousands of dollars tied up. We're getting used tires from these late model guys. And, the group of guys, you couldn't find a better group of guys. If having short hair and no beard and all your teeth and all that kind of criteria, then it's the wrong group. Because we got whiskers and all kinds of things going on. We have a lot of fun. But we're earthy, and you could approach any of us, and we'd give you a nice conversation.
Yeah, absolutely. I understand. Your name and products have been in ears, wrists, neck, hair, and belts of women and men, and especially a lot of them in racing for quite a while. And like you just mentioned a while ago, I know some of the guys they want to wear one of those watches that you provide to winners and track champions, which you've done for some tracks for a number of years. So that's what I say, Gary. You've got to be the racing jeweler of the decade.
It's been helpful that the people that are in the business support me back. You're right. I don't want any money from you. I want your business, and we'll figure out what you owe me later. So when the people come into my business, I can fix you up something you can afford and you can like. I'll be just happy as a peacock to do it for you. And you can't find that anymore. And we're built that way, and we've been that way for years. The old saying at my story is, if I would put it on my own wife, I don't have it here to sell to you.
Yeah. All right. Well, anyway, Gary, we appreciate you taking some time to talk with us here on the local racing roundup. It's been a ball, and we've had a good time. And thanks a lot for taking some time.
God bless you all, and I appreciate the conversation. It was a lot of fun tonight. Appreciate it, and talk to you again sometime, okay?
Okay, Gary, you have a good evening, buddy, and just stay in there and keep selling that jewelry, even if you only are working 2 days a week.
The old saying is, the best is yet to come. Come on by the jobs. The jewelry you'll recommend to your friends and family. I'm sorry for the commercial, but I just can't help it.
I was going to say, that was our first commercial.
That's right.
The check in the mail.
Yeah,
Okay?
yeah, that was our first commercial, man. I loved it. All right, Gary, take care, buddy.
Thanks, Mike.
Bye-bye. I was looking forward to that when I knew Gary would be.
He's quite well, I've been in the shop when he's been in there, and he's always, I like just while I was looking in the cases, just listening to him talk to others, customers and such. Yeah, he's a very outgoing person and a larger than life personality.
Well, and definitely one of those people that's behind the scenes in racing.
Right.
Yes, Dale, we're going to put you on speakerphone, buddy. We'll be right with you. Like I say, one of those larger than life people that's behind the scenes, and just has given to racing in so many ways. Like he says, not so much about buying car parts or doing stuff like that, but hey, I'll pay your way in tonight, your crew, everybody. Hey, we'll do that all year.
It all adds up. I mean, when you're having to pay $35 pit passes, entry fees, the fuel to get to the tracks, and that has nothing to do with the actual money you've spent, the fuel, the tires, all that. That's just things that you'll have to spend regardless of any other consideration every week. So yeah, that all adds up. So if somebody helps you out even with those basic costs, it's still going to matter.
Absolutely. And besides that, all of the blood, sweat, and tears you put in during the week. And sponsorship, can't do much about that. But, man, we just couldn't get by without it. Folks, right now, we have got the Napa of St. Joe owner. We got Dale Eaton. And, of course, Dale, you've worn so many hats in and around and through racing. How many years you been at this, Dale?
In some form of racing since I was probably around 12 years old, so 40 plus years.
Holy smokes, I didn't know it'd been that long. I was thinking 30, maybe possibly 35, but not 40. When you say 12, well then were you helping somebody on a pit crew or somebody that you knew, relative?
We were racing mini bikes when we first started.
Really?
Yep.
Two-wheelers?
Yep, and go-karts, and probably about the only thing I haven't driven is a sprint car.
I'll be darned. Any reason for that?
What's that?
Any reason why you haven't driven a sprint car?
That's the one area my wife puts her foot down at.
So you couldn't talk J.R. Topper into letting you drive his car around a couple of times?
We probably could, but I don't know if my wife would be real happy with that.
Oh, all right. Well, I understand that.
We've definitely got to keep the better half happy, or we couldn't do a lot of the things that we get to do. I'm a testament to that. But, being an auto parts dealer, I mean, this one here is not really hard to figure out, Dale, as far as, let's face it, men buy most car parts, and I think it goes way beyond that when it comes to sponsoring racing. it's almost a made in heaven deal for you, I think, because you've been involved in the sport for so long, and I think this just a lot of it has to feel just like it's life for you.
Yeah, the parts store, we opened, I want to say 5 years ago. I might be wrong on that. And, the main business was the collision repair shop. I started that in 1984. And then, our goal was to eventually be able to control all aspects of the vehicle repair when it was involved in a collision. So, we just we had the mechanical shop, the glass shop, the parts store was one of the last pieces to control that. And that was kind of the thinking behind all the businesses. My brother and I and our wives own the parts store, and then we own Eye Candy Graphics as well.
Yeah, I just heard that recently. I think I talked to Rick Staley when we were doing the Cheeseworks, what do you want to call it? Best of the year. I think best of the best we called it for 2020, that you did that. But, wow.
My brother, he does all the trophies and everything for US 36 and Bethany. He's gotten real good on the plasma table, and some of the trophies that he's made are very unique and pretty cool looking. And he just done some not too long ago for the Northwest Tractor Pullers Association, and he's gotten really good at that stuff.
Yeah. Well, to me, it's pretty plain and simple. You get a lot of racing customers, I'm sure, especially in the parts store. Do you have any idea of what part of your business could be people from racing, either fans, racers, whatever? Do you keep any kind of statistics or have any idea what that might be?
Eric's the numbers guy. I can tell you the parts store, it works out pretty good because, the racing part is seasonal. We also sell truck accessories, and then the regular parts, I call them, on the Napa side. So it complements itself where there's not really a slow time, because of the seasonality of some of the stuff, and then the diversity helps keep it even. But I would say, during the summer, probably 40% of the business is racing related.
Wow. I would have never guessed that high. But I know, well, that kind of leads me into the next question here. You're based in St. Joe there, so I presume you're doing most of your sponsorship there, like with 36 and Bethany. Is that correct?
Yeah, we primarily try to stick to sponsorship things that help the most racers that we can. We, other than myself or my son and Eric's son, we don't really do any individual sponsorship because we don't want to create any hard feelings, so we help at the tracks, and like if there's a special event or something like that,
right.
That way we reach the most people we can.
Yeah, I've got a picture of you and Tim up here right now, by the way. I snagged off of, I think, Tim's Facebook page today. He must have won. You're both smiling.
I think that's the picture where he won one night at the USRA Nationals.
Oh, okay.
Excellent.
Was that at 36? Oh, USRA at Lakeside, or I-35?
I-35, one of the years the Nationals were up there.
Yeah, right. I'll be darned. You got to be pretty proud, man. I mean, the kid's good.
Yeah, he eats, breathes, and sleeps racing, and he's gotten good. For a long time, he wasn't the best as far as listening, and then we had a few breakthroughs where what I was trying to tell him made him faster, and then it got easier to offer suggestions to help him get faster yet. He's gotten very proficient at car setup. He has a really good feel for the car, too. He worked at IROC race cars for a while, and he's developed a pretty good relationship with a shot guy that I've used for 20 plus years, and they work real well together too.
Yeah. Now tell us who that is, Dale.
This CPD Shocks, Denny.
Okay. All right. Now, don't you guys also somewhere in the organization have kind of a speed shop or whatever part of your business where they work on race cars?
A little bit. I do a lot of frame straightening for guys that get in an accident, a wreck at the track or something. And then we do offer some setup help. And then Tim actually lives in the house that I used to live in and does a lot of race car stuff in that shop still.
Yeah. I know how these race car drivers are, Dale. Do you get calls like 24/7?
During racing season,
I bet.
a lot we do. The off season, you don't hear a whole lot. December to January, maybe February, and then March, things start getting pretty busy.
Yeah. They start getting worried they're not going to be ready.
Yeah. I'm supposed to go to Bristol in a month, and I haven't even unloaded my car from Boone last year.
Wow. Okay. Well, racers, they usually find a way to work it in. Of course, this cold weather we've been having hasn't been helping anybody out.
Yeah.
Absolutely. But, something else that we might mention, I know we're talking about sponsorship here, but something else that we might mention as far as your involvement in the racing community is the fact that, what was it, for 2 years or more, you were the tech guy at US 36 and Bethany Speedway.
Yeah, primarily at US 36. I'm still doing that. This will be the 4th year. And then I'll help out at Bethany. Mitch is the other tech guy at 36, and then he's the head tech guy at Bethany. And, because I got a little bit of racing left in me, and so I want to race once in a while on Saturdays, and I'll help out if I'm not racing. And, we planted 6,000 grapevines at our farm a couple of years ago, and that last year really kicked my butt as far as time. Yeah. I'm trying to take care of all the vines.
Yeah. Well, are you getting any wine out of it yet?
No, it'll be 2 more years before we actually get a crop.
I'll be darned. Wow. 6,000 vines.
There goes my tasting opportunity.
Mary says there goes her tasting opportunity, but anyway, man, that sounds like a challenge right there. What's the name of your, I don't know what you want to call it, vineyard going to be?
Yeah, it'll be Lickport Farms and Vineyards.
Say that again.
Lickport Creek Farms and Vineyards.
Lickport?
Yeah. Yeah, there's a creek that runs right through the middle of the property, and it's called Lickport Creek.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, we'll be watching for that, and of course, you could be having a sampling station at the racetrack.
Yeah. Yeah, we bought some juice from some of the same varieties of grapes that we planted and made wine a year ago, and it was pretty good.
Yeah. Is that kind of one of your secret passions? You always wanted to own a winery. Earl Walls down there at CMS, they're putting in a microbrewery.
Well, it wasn't so much the grapes as I like growing things, and for a long time I had a garden, and then just as I got so busy, I had to get away from it, and we've owned property out towards Hamilton since 1984, and grow a lot of food plots and stuff like that for wildlife and hunting, and somewhere down the road I'll want to retire, and maybe the grapes will help supplement a retirement income, maybe.
Yeah, I hear you. And I'll tell you what, anymore you just about need it, because what I found out when I retired, Ray, in particular, is you get used to a certain lifestyle.
Right.
Yeah.
And when you retire, why, sometimes your budget is not in accord with your lifestyle, which I found out the first 2 years I was retired. And you kind of have to adjust but once I hit 65 and Social Security kicked in and some other things, why, you know, it was a lot better.
Better shape.
But yeah, that's something to look forward to. But Dale, I know with this sponsoring that you do, I know I don't know if I want to say the end result, but one of the major factors, of course, is the money, and you know where it goes, and also how it comes back to you. But when you slouch down in that easy chair at night at the end of a long day at the shop, you look back over what you've done, and I know racing has been good to you and your family. It's been a lot of hard work, but what kind of goes through your mind? Is it a thing of passion and love for racing? Is what it's all about? I mean, it's not the money.
Pretty much, and one reason we help at 36 in Bethany is Eric and I both appreciate what John Bowler tries to do for racing in the area, and that's one reason I help with the tech. Is it? We have a good group of racers that all appreciate there is good tech. I mean, just about any night, the top 5 will be in the infield, and they'll all be cutting up and shaking hands, and there's hardly ever an altercation down there.
Uh-huh.
And it just, hard tech it's difficult sometimes, and sometimes there's people get upset, but if it's a reasonable person, they know they were outside the rules usually anyway, and they'll be back the next week. Like I've told a few of them, fix it and come back. I mean, you got to push the rules to be competitive. I understand that as being a racer myself, but you also know when you're blatantly crossing the line and shouldn't be. But we like doing what we do at the tracks to help John, because he's doing a good thing for racing in the area.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree with you more. The more I hear about what John and Beth do up there, the more I think they're just terrific. I can't think of the word, promoters in what they do, and especially when they take on 2 tracks. I mean, doing this 2 nights a week has got to be almost overwhelming, I think, at some point.
Yes, it would be for me especially, and I work. I don't have no problem working, but yeah, that'd be difficult.
Yeah, no, I can't. Well, and I don't want to say 2 different organizations, but you got Mike Franks on one hand. Of course, he's a nice guy.
Yeah.
I've talked with him. But then the Bethany Fair Board, of course, I think they're just glad to be able to use that facility rather than just see it set.
Yeah, well, and John's got a lot of good people that help him too, and that's the secret. Just like in our businesses, we got to have good people to make it go. It isn't just us there.
Right. I was going to say, boss can only do so much, man. You got to depend on them people and getting the right folks that can do the job, and letting them have a free hand, I think, is a real secret to business.
Yeah, we have pretty good people. When I went to Boone, I wasn't feeling very good when I went to Boone, and I came home, and I stayed home, and I wound up in the hospital for over a week, and I had the virus.
Oh, wow.
And when it was all said and done, I had missed work for a whole month.
Oh, really? Oh, my.
Wow.
Yeah, and my shop was still there when I got back. So
That's good.
That's a testament to having good people.
Yeah. There's still some parts on the shelf and in the storeroom.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, all I can say, Dale, is thanks for taking some time to talk with us tonight. It's always a pleasure to talk with you. And I had no idea it was 40 years experience, but man, that's a long time, and you've got to have a pretty good working knowledge of how it all works. So
yeah, like I say, we started in mini bikes, then there were some go-karts in there, then I raced motocross for a little while, had a few years off, then drag raced for a long time.
Oh, even drag.
And run Division 5 NHRA stuff. We were undefeated for almost 2 years out at US 36 in the 5-pound heads-up class.
Wow.
And then sold all my racing stuff to grow my business. And then about 7 years after that, I made the mistake of going to a dirt track, went to Savannah, and owned a car 3 weeks later, and circle track since.
Yeah, that sounds like smoking. Don't ever go back and try just one.
Yeah.
Because you're a goner for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, there was a joke for a while. My wife used to coach softball with our daughter, and there was several times she went out of town, and I'd end up with a new race car whenever she went out of town.
Oh, I love that. Anyway, Dale, man, I think you're, again, one of those unique people in racing that we got to have folks like you, I mean, on every side of it, not only the sponsorship, but what you do inside of racing. You know, it's just so helpful for everybody. And just stay with it, man. We're going to need you for a few more years, I think.
Yeah, like Mr. Joslin talked, for me, I do have 2 of his watches, and he talked about that passion, and that's what it takes. I got to tell everybody, I've tried to quit racing a couple of times, and I always get pulled back to it. And I tell everybody it's the only legal addictive habit that I know of.
Yeah, boy, that is so true. I don't have no marks on my arms, but
Yeah.
man, I tell you what, sometimes I'm thinking, you know what, this is addictive. Because you got to have a life outside of it too, and sometimes that's hard to balance the two. And, you just have to work at it. But anyway, Dale, thanks a lot for taking some time, man. It means a lot to me for you to sit down and talk with us.
Well, you bet. It means a lot you asked me. Thank you very much.
All right. You enjoy the rest of the evening. And I'm sorry we were late getting to you, but I knew this was going to, sometimes we get carried away.
You bet. No problem.
All right, Dale. Take care, man.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. Well, Ray, what do you think, man? I mean, we've hit some of the little guys, we've hit some of the big guys, and have you got any thoughts to kind of sum up what we've seen and talked about tonight?
Well, it's, we got a lot of different perspectives there. I mean, and people that are involved in different businesses.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you have your more obvious businesses, obviously, like Napa Auto Parts or
Auto-related.
car dealership, but then you have Design Source Flooring, and you have Joslin's Jewelry. So those are totally different and non-traditional, or not the first thing you would think about with racing, but it's still about people. What you really got out of all of that is that in each aspect of this, we're talking about people, we're talking about a passion for racing. They just combined those two things the way they could, whether it was through giving away watches or Design Source Flooring, sponsoring race cars or running their own, or Eaton, who's just about done everything in racing circles you could possibly do, or Chad Clancy, another one that's done just about everything he could do to be involved in racing.
Yeah.
And you see that, and the passion they have for the sport, but also what's nice is just like when one of the big boys makes it big, like somebody like a Tony Stewart, when they give back to the racing community by getting a track or whatever, these guys are giving back. Del Eaton brought it up as good as anybody, saying, hey, I'm helping Tech at Bethany and US 36 because those people are good people and they're supporting racing. This is an avenue for me to give back. And in each case, everybody you talked to talked about also giving back.
Right.
And that, to me, is probably the biggest thing here. It's just like you and me, Cheese. We grew up with racing. We have a passion for it. We weren't particularly on the mechanical side or on the driving side, so how did we give back? Well, for you and me, it's about doing things like this, and that's the niche we found to also contribute to the sport we love.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think there are people out there that are probably have this same drive and passion for racing, and it's one of those things that as Ray just said, I think you've got to find that little niche where you fit in and what it is you can do, whether it might be buying a racer a tire, or maybe the pit pass for the night for one crew member, or, you know, anything like that. It's the opportunity for us as fans and people that just really love the sport to see to it that those people that are at the races just have a little extra money to be able to operate. And of course, when I think about that, I always think about the racers' families. And I know a lot in the old days, you've seen a lot of marriages go down the tubes because a lot of racers, there again, they get addicted to the sport.
Yeah.
And families were actually ruined. I mean, it's a terrible thing to say. You've seen it. I mean, I'm not lying. It happens.
Well,
But-
and I think in those cases, unfortunately, or in many of those cases, when I've seen a racer marry a lady, or vice versa, who's ever the racer now, we have ladies.
Yeah.
But when they get in a relationship with somebody that's from racing, or at least was a fan, then they understand racing and they have a passion for it, because obviously we know that at any level of racing, regardless of fan, owner, driver, mechanic, whatever, a lot of time's going to be put in. So when you're in a relationship with others, they've also got to be on board with that and understand that, and has to work together, because when we've seen those situations where that wasn't the case, then obviously that wasn't good for the relationship and it was bad. That's why it's neat to see families involved in racing,
Yes.
from the kids to the parents to the grandparents, where they all play a part in it,
Right.
no matter what that part is, because they do. I was talking to some racers last year when I was doing stories on rookie drivers for the MWRA, and one owner specifically said this was a way to have a better relationship with his son.
Yeah.
He had bought a car for them to race together to help their relationship as father and son, because that was something they could share together. And he said that was one of the big points for him, or emphasis that he put on it, was his having that common thing to share together.
And it's a good tool to use with kids as far as grades and other things that, you know, you'd like for
You
them
can
to
do that
accomplish.
incentive, because you also talk to others, especially in the younger racers that are still at school age, where that is oftentimes an incentive. You'll even talk to them and their parents will say, well, I'm not going to mention names, but if Joe Bob knows that he does this, and this,
he gets
then
to
he
race.
gets to race. And so then it's important for him to make sure he gets his work done and takes care of his business at school, because that's going to lead to the opportunity to race. And so, it's sometimes you're dangling a carrot there, but it's
it's a good tool.
Right.
Like I say, it works with a lot of kids, and one of the ones that it just reminds me of, and I know this is a small comparison, is Jake Richards. I raced radio control cars with him when he was 12.
Right.
I don't know if you know Jake.
I know
you're an
who he
open
is,
wheel guy, so I throw
I
these
know who
names
he
at
is.
you. But one of the things for him, even when he raced RC, was, of course, he had to have his grades. And there were nights he sat out. Doug, his dad, he did the business. He did it right. And, of course, Jake now is a very responsible individual in life, and I credit Doug with all of that. But anyway, we're kind of getting off the subject a little bit, and I think we're going to close this thing out. We've been at this over an hour and a half, hour and 40 minutes. But I wanted to thank Ray for accepting my invitation to come and co-host. I think you did a great job, Ray. Appreciate your comments and involvement in all this. And, of course, all of the guests, and I got to put my glasses on. David McMasters from Seaberg Muffler, Chad Clancy from Westfall GMC, Justin Lawson from Design Source Flooring, Gary Joslin from Joslin Jewelers, and Dale Eaton from Napa of St. Joe. And folks, I'm going to tell you just like we always do, I know this may have not been your favorite program tonight, and that's okay. We didn't have your favorite driver on. We understand that part. We can only do so many at a time. And if it's not your driver, I understand. You know, you don't want to watch. But like I say, just check back on Cheeseworks during probably around Wednesday, sometimes Thursday morning. I put up a list of people that will be on the show that evening. And if it's not your cup of tea, that's okay. Maybe next week we'll have your guy on. But if you did like the show, here's the deal. Call a friend, tell somebody, start a watch party, do something, help us out, get somebody to watch. It's that simple. The more people that watch, why, the more inclined I'm to keep doing this. Because we really want to get out and reach the racing community and have them involved in what we're doing here and want to be watching the show to see what's going to be on for this week. As somebody said the other week on the Craft Show, almost sound like Johnny Carson. But anyway, that's going to do it for tonight, folks. I hope you enjoyed the show. And we'll be looking forward to hopefully seeing you again next week. And we're not too far from racing season. So as far as for Ray and myself, good night. And I'll close out this other one here.
So now, are these my sheets than cheese? Or?
You can have them if you want them.
Okay.
All they'll do is go over there and go in the pile and get reused.
Well, I did take a few notes in case I
Okay, sure.
deal with anybody, but